Hello, my name is Brooke Shaden, and I want to share with you 7 of the best ways to communicate your message. So what I mean specifically is that we all have this thing that we feel like we need to tell the world. And for a lot of us, that's through our art. We have this way of creating that puts who we are out there into the world. And that means that we have a message. Whether you think of it like that or not, we have something to communicate. And the communication part is the difficult part. How do we actually accurately communicate that thing that we feel like we need to tell people, the reason why we create art in the first place? And I want to break down 7 ways that we can communicate our message in a more effective way. The first one is to pay attention to color. Now, this might seem like a weird one in relation to communicating a message, because what does that have to do with your message at all? But actually, it has a great deal to do with it because of the culture that we live in of scrolling past things right away. Pay attention to color, because the more you can pronounce a certain color, like one particular color, or create a really cohesive color palette, that's going to stop people when they're scrolling and actually fall on your image. And this might seem like a marketing thing and not so much a communication thing, but to me it's all the same, because in order to start communicating your message, people have to look at what you're doing. So my point is not to be colorful or don't be colorful or pick one color or whatever. It's to be really mindful about how you're using color so that you can use it in a way that stops people and they look at what you're doing. Number 2, a really good way to start to communicate your message is to layer your images conceptually. And I mean this like the traditional onion metaphor, like really take apart the layers of your imagery or whatever your art is and give some complexity to the viewer, because that's what we're lacking, is complexity in art in so many genres. So go ahead and create images that upon further looking, upon really diving in, they'll find something that surprises them. And this can be done through many different ways: symbolism, color, location, all different ways that we can sort of add detail in without over cluttering the image. Okay, the third one is like a little weird for me to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. So years and years ago, I was in a car with my friend Olivia, and she taught me this Latin saying, and I'm probably not going to say it right, but whatever. And she taught it to me. It goes, "De gustibus non est disputandum," and it means in matters of taste there can be no dispute. Basically, like, you like what you like, and nobody can fight you on that because it's a matter of opinion. But I'm going to take a step back from that phrase and actually argue that in matters of taste in art, there can be some dispute in terms of the masses liking something. Now, you've already probably said, well, I'm not creating for the masses, so it doesn't matter. Okay, that's fine. But I'm coming at this from the standpoint of I want to reach as many people as possible. That's not to say I want to create commercial work or I want to sell out my work, but I do want to reach people with my art. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, with wanting to reach people with this thing that I find important enough to create. So if you want to reach a lot of people, your art has to be polished. It has to have a look like you know what you're doing, like there's cohesion to it. A great example of this is color theory. A lot of people, like from the basics, don't understand color theory. And that's okay if you've got your own thing going on, but it's a lot easier to break the rules if you understand them in the first place. So even though in matters of taste there can be no dispute, in matters of reaching a lot more people than you are right now, there can be some dispute. Number 4 is to do something unexpected. A lot of people are used to seeing a lot of imagery, and if you do something unexpected, that can catch people's attention enough to get them to follow your work. That doesn't have to be the norm. It's not like every day you have to make something crazy and out there and weird, but just think about how you can expand your art to be a little bit more different, a little bit more eye-catching, a little bit more explosive. Number 5 is to actually have something to say. We're talking about communicating your message, but what do you have to say, truly? And I don't mean this like to imply that you don't, or that you're not already doing that, because I know for me, I do that sometimes and I don't. Sometimes I have a message, sometimes it's not very clear. I was in a portfolio review once, and the person reviewing me basically said, you have no point to your work. Like, there's nothing that you're trying to say that hasn't been said before, and maybe even better than how you're doing it. So think about, what is your message and how is that really specific to you, and how can only you portray that message? It doesn't mean that the message has to be something that's never been said before, but just that you are saying it in the most innovative way that you can. The sixth way to communicate your art and your message is to branch out and figure out how you can put what you do out there into different formats. So if you are primarily a photographer, how can you make videos about what you do? Because that kind of content is going to surprise your audience and engage them in a different way than just sharing an image. So think about how you can branch out in terms of photography or writing or other mediums, or just simply different ways of sharing, so that your message isn't lost because it looks the same every time. Now, even though I create tons of imagery with tons of different concepts, that can get a little bit boring because people don't always want to spend the time just like sinking their brain into what this image means and then this image. So why not give them a break and say, you know what? Okay, here's a video about how I made this, or here's a video about why I made this, and then share the image, because that could really help the ingestion process. Number 7 is so important in the way that we communicate our art to an audience, and that is to ask yourself before you even start the creating process, or if you already have things that you want to release maybe after, how do you want your audience to feel? So important if you're interested in communicating your message. Now, you might be thinking, that's a sellout thing to say. I don't want to think about how they'll feel. It doesn't matter how they feel. Well, then we're operating on 2 different wavelengths right now, and that's okay. It's okay if you don't want to think about that, but like I said, I'm interested in creating for people as well as for myself. So if I'm going to ask myself how I want to feel when I look at my own images, I should also ask how other people want to feel. And this can help connect us to our audience. It can really help broaden our perspective of that one single takeaway that we want our audience to feel or think or believe. So if you know how you want them to feel or think or believe, then you can really push that message out to them in a more effective, concise way. So these are 7 ways that you can more effectively communicate your art to others, and I hope that it was helpful for you. And if you decide to take any of these to heart and try them out, let me know how it goes. If you like this video, please subscribe and share it with your friends if you don't mind. That way I can keep creating videos, which I love. So thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.